What's up, you guys? I thought I'd do a review on this OneWheel that I kind of picked up recently. Been playing around with it. This is the OneWheel Pint, and some of you guys may or may not know what this is. Some of you guys will be clicking on this because you want a product review, kind of comparing some of the pros and cons between this and the XR, the bigger version. Some of you guys might not know what this is. So briefly, what this is basically it's an electric scooter, electric kind of board basically. And there's kind of two versions of this. And if you guys have seen this before, you know, first time, just like me, when you first saw this, you're like, this thing, it looks really cool. It looks tons of fun. I got to pick it up. And it is really fun. So I'll say that off the bat. However, I'm going to make this review as honest as I can so you guys can make an educated decision on if you want to pick up this or the other one, or if you want to pick it up at all. Because I will give you some honest reviews about my take on this, if I have any buyer's remorse or anything like that. And those two models, like, again, someone who's not familiar with it, that XR is bigger, it can go a little further distance. It, like I said, has the bigger base. It can go a little bit faster, like 3 to 5 miles faster, maybe, I think it was. Not too much, but a little bit faster. And so I thought I'd just cover these few things with it. Right off the bat, though, I'd say my initial thought, and again, it's a hefty price tag, it's $1,000. And without getting into it, you know, how I paid for it, I knew I wanted it, and it's somewhat an impulse buy, but I actually just sold a bunch of stuff on eBay to pay for it. So that's how I looked at it. But when I first saw that XR years ago, when I saw someone driving, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. How much is that? $2,000. And I'm like, okay, I'm not buying that. You can buy a lot of things with $2,000. If money is no object, then maybe I would just get the XR, play with it. It's bigger, has a bigger charge. That makes sense. But if you're kind of on the fence with money-wise, or maybe you can afford the bigger one, but you're like, well, I'm really going to get the use out of that bigger one just to save the extra $1,000. I can address those concerns too. And one other thing is, I think the thing that I thought about for the initial purchase of, am I even going to like this? Am I going to use it? Whether this is to actually make the initial purchase or comparing the XR to the Pint, is really your community and how you're going to use it. I think that's kind of like, that is huge basically. And I still think that was true after these first few days of riding it. I had a friend who saw me riding this, like, I got to pick it up too. And I was kind of telling him how I was using it, and he kind of reconsidered it because to me, I have a lot of dependents. I have a wife, I have a bunch of kids. I don't have tons of time to go out and just go off for 3 or 4 hours. Whereas the XR can hold a charge like that and go explore and do all those things. I really don't do that. I think that you're gonna get the most use out of this just picking it up and driving around your community. Sure, you could take this and throw it in your car and just drive different places like a park or a different community to ride it, which I'm not saying I won't do. I definitely will do that. And I'll bring up vacations and things like that, so that'd be really cool. But I think it's gonna get most of its use out of the community. And I knew my community was pretty easy to kind of get around and explore and do some stuff. But if you live in somewhere where you're in like a big suburban area where you're really just gonna be tooling around your little inlet there, and you maybe let a major highway, you're not gonna go there, and you don't have excluded tons of time to go out and do stuff, that's something to kind of think about how much use you're gonna get out of it. So I think that's like the biggest factor. I knew it wasn't gonna be on this thing for extended periods of time anyways. So that was one area of looking at it. The other thing was really just like the stability, like how am I going to be using this device really? Well, first let me say this too. What does it really feel like to go into initial things? So that was a big thing. Everyone says like it was one purchase that I didn't regret buying. I'm not saying I regret buying it at all, but there's just some things to kind of talk about that I didn't really necessarily think, weren't necessarily true in my mind of what I thought this thing could do. Where some people said, well, it just feels like you're floating and it's totally effortless the way you drive it. It's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's effortless. It does feel floating-esque, I would say, in the sense that it really feels like you're on a skateboard, like an elevated skateboard, what it feels like. And skateboarding can feel like you're floating in a sense that there's nice, smooth terrain. And since this has a nice round wheel and it's a curved wheel, you can do things like grinding and it can go over terrain pretty good. I wouldn't say it's totally, I'm only speaking for the Pint now. I wouldn't say it's totally, you still have to keep your wits about you, my point is. If you're on the sidewalk or a nice paved, decent, like, road, that'd be fine. But when I'm kind of going off on like roads that have little mini potholes and some little gravel and stuff, you can kind of catch and kind of feel uneasy and kind of wobbly. So I wouldn't say, to me, watching the videos, it look like people just going right over stuff. And I still don't know how people are kind of carving. And maybe that's just with the XR. And I've seen people do it with the Pint, but I haven't felt that comfortable yet with it. Even grass, I've seen videos of people ripping over grass. I've gone over grass a little bit, decent amount, and I don't feel like I can just rip through grass, at least right now. Maybe it's just totally a confidence thing. So that's something to kind of consider. I think you have to kind of keep your balance to you. And that goes with this talking about this platform that you have with this, and XR being a lot more tankier and bigger. And I think if I'm like 205, 6 foot, I think if you're getting taller than that, I don't know how much taller. The point is, if you're taller, a bigger person in general, you're gonna want, I think, a bigger base, because this makes you, while I feel good on it, there are times where I'm kind of, I would say there's a lot of times where it's kind of doing one of these, like not shaking, but you're kind of just checking yourself with different terrain and things like that. I'm not saying it's hard, I'm just saying just be mindful of the terrain you're on. It's not just you can rip over stuff, is what I'm getting at. So I think you might want a bigger one for that. This isn't really like fitness, I would say, but it definitely takes some getting used to. The first day, I think I did fairly okay as far as picking it up and driving it within the first, like, I don't know, 10 minutes, I was fine. But getting used to like stopping, getting off it, or like yesterday I had to like get off it really quick as the car was driving and there was this little pothole, person was in front of me, so I had to like hop off and the thing spun around. You're gonna ding the crap out of this thing the first time you get it. I put so many gashes in this thing in the few days I've driven it, even like right here, this thing's kind of scuffed a lot just right around the edges, that, you know, one of the things, they make it, I got this fender, which is nice, but honestly, the thing's really kicking up and hitting me too much. It's really this, I don't like these skid marks and things like that, which I hear is normal. It's just, don't get too attached to these aesthetics. You can replace everything and customize it, which is cool. You can get little guards in here. But I would have thought as how much that you're stopping and putting the board down or skidding off it, that they would it would come with some like guards already. That's one little thing. But I have heard that it's built like a tank as far as a long-term use. You can handle handle a beating. The battery can handle a charge for a while. So, you know, that's good to know. But overall, I would say it's definitely a fun purchase. It's something that so far I'm not sick of using. I still want to get out and do it. It's $1,000. One thing too, again, with the speed, I'm going to talk about speed too. I feel comfortable with this pint also, in the sense that I feel like I kind of like that I don't, at least right now, maybe I'll regret this, maybe like months out. I like that it's not going super fast. I like kind of going, I shouldn't say I like not going super fast. My point is 15 miles per hour is like the max for me anyways. When I'm going like, you know, even like above 10, I'm not saying I feel unstable, but I'm just cautious. Anything can happen. A cat can run out in front of you. And if you wipe out even going that fast on this thing, you're going to have problems. So obviously wearing safety gear is important. And given that it is a smaller base, and I said it kind of feels a little unstable, that's also kind of reason why I bought it too. I kind of like smaller board stuff. Like if you ever like done paddleboarding or snowboarding or surfing, anything with the board, a smaller board means it requires a little more stability and balance. And some people prefer that. Like if you go, I have a paddleboard. My paddleboard, I actually wanted a smaller one, because bigger ones, I feel like I'm just kind of standing on this big plank, which is cool, but I like kind of feeling like I had to keep myself balanced. And I kind of thought about that too. Again, it's easy to say that when I don't have an XR to compare it to, and it kind of sounds contradictory since I just said how I maybe feel like I'm unstable. So I don't know. Right now I thought, you know, it's a little more, it makes you feel a little bit more, for lack of better words, kind of a little more exciting being on a smaller, you know, base, so to speak. So it's really fun to just pick up and go and use. I think, especially during warm like weather right now, at least by me, it's something fun and definitely different to do. It's a different activity. Are you going to get, I'm not saying if you live in a community, go back to the original point, and you get bored of it in like a little neighborhood. I think you get bored of it, but just like anything else, I mean, it's for sure, it's fun. It's exhilarating just going out there, just free, kind of doing that. I just feel like after a while, like anything, it kind of can lose its feel a little bit. One little minor point too, I forgot to mention that as far as distance is concerned, I mentioned this before. The only other thing I've noticed I don't find myself really wanting to go out for longer rides, because I actually been finding that my feet have been getting my back foot gets kind of crazy sore and cramps up. Granted, it's only the first few days, I'm sure I'll get over it, but also my neck. I know I'm talking like, this is a fitness thing. I'm talking like complaining. I'm just saying it's minor stuff that when you're driving for long periods of time with your neck looking sideways, it's different with like skateboarding, because I'll skateboard too, and I can skateboard straight, and then I'm going to go in sideways. When you're going long periods of time looking sideways, I have to like, give myself little breaks looking straight this way, and you don't really want to do that either. So that's something too as far as distancing. So if you've got a big environment to go explore, you got tons of stuff to do, you don't have anything to worry about as far as you can ditch and go out for 2 or 3 hours at a time, or you're commuting, right? It makes sense to get that XR for sure. But overall, I'd say if you consider your environment, the context of how you're going to use it, that'll make you really consider between this and the XR. I'd be happy to post some more videos or talk more about this in the future. This is just my initial thoughts about using it kind of short term. And like I said, that's about it. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys later.